So, surprise, surprise, another black man was shot and killed by a police officer who, in typical occurrence in these scenarios, is white. Now, before I start this is not a video taking a side between Walter Scott or the officer that shot him, nor is it a video where I flat out say he deserved it or the officer overreacted, nor do I go into a full tirade about race or whatever issue comes up during this topic that people like to bend race into it somehow. Although those two prior topics, not counting the latter, will be touched on here. I have seen the full video, but I'm focusing on this main shooting right now because that's all anybody really seems to care about. They don't care about the full, actual, unedited video. So, here we go. Anyways, this video isn't about those things. It's a little bit about the people who react to them and form opinions around them without knowing the full context. It's more about reminding people to look at these issues with a bigger frame. Usually, whenever something like this happens, you have people who say the officer overreacted or the guy was running from the police, something you won't do, usually before finding out more facts about the video at hand. Now, when it comes to those videos appearing, I generally side with the latter case because, well, it's true. When you're stopped by a police officer, you shouldn't run from them. Just cooperate and you'll get to live to tell the tale. However, a large majority of the men killed by police have actually done something wrong, be it robbing a store or simply running from the police. Therefore, in the defense of those same officers, they were doing something illegal, which of course is run from the police. But we have seen incidents where black men have been cooperating with police and still getting killed, more notably the Eric Garner video. Also, the possibility must also be considered that the police officer here overstepped his boundaries, and while we do see Walter Scott run from the officer in this video, the officer did shoot more than 5 rounds at him from his pistol at close range, proving that either A, he has horrible aim and shouldn't use a pistol at all, or B, clearly overreacted and used pretty much a whole clip on Scott as he ran away. Likely the latter because a police officer needs to have some firearms training to pass academy, and at least needs to be accurate with where they shoot lest they hit any bystanders should there be a struggle. So either way, this is on the officer. He used a pistol where a taser might have sufficed, or a chase. I mean, these cops have to be in shape to catch these people, right? Couldn't he have chased Scott and maybe used a taser while he was at it if Scott proved too fast to tackle? So both ways, both parties have some setbacks from innocence. However, even without knowing the core background details, people still take sides without inquiring further. I mean, this is a new thing, and not much info has come out yet, but now's not really the time to take any sides on this. I've seen people online and in real life say that Scott shouldn't have been shot despite not knowing what events occurred before the video was even recorded. And really, there's no way of knowing as of yet. Nobody records video a minute before the act and is in the right place at the right time to capture all of the preceding events. The small bits of video we do have in these cases is usually the only thing we get as evidence that this happened, minus the officer's testimony, which, as a source from an involved party, isn't really credible if he actually seeks to keep his standing and his job. Nor would the testimony from Walter Scott be entirely credible if he was alive. Both of these parties will try to make themselves look better than the other unless they are honest about it. But in itself, it's still hard to tell. We only have that clip of video so far. So let's analyze this video. Here we see some sort of scuffle occur before Scott starts to make a break for it and the officer hesitates for a second or two before opening fire. Before we even get to the shooting, we see something fly past the officer during the scuffle. The video is blurry, but what could it have been? A gun? Some other object? We know a struggle happened, and once that object flew, Scott took off. Maybe it was a gun he had in his hand, maybe it was a taser the officer had on his waist that flew off. Whatever the case, a struggle happened for whatever reason, and that object was likely the target of all of it. Now here's my main point. People like to focus on the shooting itself without even knowing the build-up to it. There's been reports on the officer's background and everything, but a relatively small amount of people actually want to know what happened before that. Well, not before it, but before the actual shooting. That small amount of time in the video is perhaps the most important part in determining who is right, and instead people focus on the later events of what the cop did was right or wrong. You've got to start from the ground up when solving this, and sadly, with what little evidence we have besides the one video, clear as it is in comparison to some others, we may have a hard time knowing. But that doesn't mean we should instantly skip to the debate of what the officer did to subdue Scott was correct or not. But honestly, with these cases, when a suspect is fleeing from you after having a fight with you, possibly knocking something out of their or your hands that could be a weapon or some other object that seemed to be the focus of the struggle, Given how they ran away after that, who can blame you when you need to subdue the man who just broke a law by resisting a police officer? Just my quick thoughts on the issue.